well, they was something until Crawford fought him. So obviously he's doing a great job because he's making everybody look normal.
Apparently no rehydration clause, am I hearing that right? He wants full smoke at that weight.
Let's go, man. That's what Crawford wants. He wants to show the world that he's the best. So, and why put stipulations in there when you know that you can be the best?
I can totally see Crawford outboxing Canelo, like bad, making him look like taking him straight to school. But again, I do not see Crawford stopping Canelo. I don't see him knocking him out. I don't see any of that. I do see Crawford taking him to 12 and.
As part of making sure he defeats Canelo, Crawford has brought in none other than Floyd Mayweather Jr. for sparring sessions, a move that says everything about the seriousness of his approach. It's been confirmed that Mayweather is helping Crawford prepare for the defensive complexity and ring intelligence that Canelo brings. The connection is deeply symbolic. Mayweather was the first to easily dethrone Canelo back in 2013, and now, 12 years later, he's helping Crawford script what could be the final chapter in the Mexican superstar's reign. According to Crawford's camp, this will force Crawford to sharpen his timing, to adapt on the fly, to tighten his footwork, and to revisit the kind of ring generalship he'll need against someone who's been walking through bigger men at 168 pounds for years.
Along my career, I've been criticized and people have taken credit away from me just to try to diminish my accomplishments just off of pure hate. So what would they be able to say with me going up 2 weight classes? If Canelo become undisputed again and I beat Canelo, what could they say?
Crawford's camp is a blend of science and intensity. He's already begun high-level sparring, not only with Mayweather, but also with Lester Martinez, the undefeated knockout artist from Guatemala. Martinez, a full-bodied super middleweight with real power, is a clear proxy for Canelo's size and strength. Crawford's team isn't leaving anything to chance. They've brought in partners who can push him, partners who can throw with the kind of explosive volume that Crawford rarely had to deal with at welterweight. It's part of a larger plan. Simulate everything Canelo might throw at him. Power, pressure, timing, and relentless body work, and then figure out how to solve it.
Great combinations and a very strong fighter. You know, facing him off, he's actually the taller man. So I'm leaning towards Crawford now. I switched my opinion. I think Canelo looked too slow, too flat-footed. One punch at a time. I don't think that's going to be enough for him to beat Crawford. Crawford's too fast, too strong, just too.
In the limited training footage Crawford has allowed the public to see, he looks sharp, throwing crisp jabs, varying his combinations, and keeping his stance switching fluid. What's striking, however, is the noticeable increase in his bulk. For a man who campaigned at 147 for so long, now pushing toward 168, the added mass is hard to ignore. To some, it's a red flag. Will he be slower? Has he traded speed for strength?
How do you think you're going to stop Canelo Alvarez?
I don't gotta stop him. I just gotta beat him. I'm not going in there looking to knock Canelo out. Could it happen? Yes, absolutely. When I look at Canelo, he's a smaller, bigger guy moving up in divisions. Being that these big guys are slower, so they might catch him with something, but he might see it at the last.
Others argue it's a smart adaptation. He's maintaining his signature sharpness while acquiring the frame to absorb Canelo's thudding shots. Social media responses were predictably divided. Some fans marveled at how clean and fluid Crawford still looked at the heavier weight. "Sharp as hell," one said. He went up in weight, gained more power, and maintained his speed. But others weren't convinced, expressing concern that the added muscle might slow him down or sap the explosiveness that has made him arguably the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world.
And then I started sizing him up, and I'm like, all right, well, Canelo 5'7", my arm's longer.
Yeah.
He's strong, I'm strong.
Right.
It'd be, to me, skill for skill.
Right.
Because Canelo not the biggest 168 fighter. So I just started looking into it, and I'm like, man.
But the transition to a bigger weight isn't just physical, it's psychological. And Crawford, ever the technician, seems completely unbothered by the magnitude of the leap. "I'm the type of guy who likes to feel my fighters out and adjust to what they're doing," he explained when asked about the weight jump. "I think that's my greatest attribute, to be able to figure out every opponent I've faced thus far." That approach, that confidence in his adaptability, has become Crawford's defining trait. He doesn't blow through opponents with overwhelming force. He breaks them down. He analyzes in real time, then dismantles piece by piece. Against Canelo, a fighter who has made a living walking down opponents, Crawford's goal will be to disrupt the rhythm, pivot off angles, and smother Canelo's forward momentum.
On his part, and then you get to see Canelo and see if he's able to maintain the 168-pound division. You know, he's been there for quite some time, and we've seen Canelo go up to 75 to fight Bivol. It didn't look too well for him, you know, but we'll see. I think it's a great matchup. Obviously, Canelo has to do his part in winning and collecting another belt to become undisputed once again in that weight class against William Skull. So it's a great matchup. I think that it's definitely eye-pleasing for the crowd.
And there's more to it than just training. The stakes are enormous, not just for Crawford, but for boxing. Turki Alalshik, the Saudi advisor behind many of the sport's recent mega events, described this upcoming showdown as the biggest fight in boxing and history in the last 10 years, or maybe more. He's not exaggerating. This isn't just a title fight. It's a pound-for-pound decider, a legacy-cementing moment for two of the sport's most dominant figures. Alalshik made the announcement with pride, thanking not just the fighters but Netflix, Sela, TKO, Nick Khan, and the entire machinery that made this event possible. Crawford versus Canelo is being marketed as the one, and it carries every bit of that weight. The branding deliberately echoes Canelo's 2013 clash with Floyd Mayweather, only this time, Canelo is the elder statesman defending his throne, and Crawford, the one looking to carve his place into the annals of greatness.
If Terence asked you to help him for Canelo, would you?
Если Canelo тебя попросит помочь в спаррингах, ты согласишься?
Yes, yeah, because I needed more practice for me next fight. If he's calm, no problem.
Do you think Terence can beat Canelo?
If 12 rounds, maybe yes.
The entire production is designed for global spectacle. Netflix is streaming the bout, making it accessible to its 300 million subscribers. The move to a streaming platform, especially after Netflix's success with Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson, signals a shift in how boxing's biggest nights are packaged and delivered. That fight pulled 108 million viewers for the main event alone. Crawford versus Canelo, with its far higher stakes and broader appeal, could very well surpass that number, pulling in casuals, diehards, and international fans alike. The three-city press tour that starts June 20th, Riyadh, New York, and Las Vegas, mirrors the promotional blueprint of old-school blockbusters, with each stop designed to escalate hype and create talking points.
Canelo Alvarez versus Terence Crawford has a venue and has a streaming platform. The fight will be in Las Vegas and Netflix will be streaming this fight. Now, I have high hopes for Netflix because like we saw Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, a lot of buffering. I don't think Netflix will make that same mistake again because this is the biggest fight in boxing since Pacquiao and Mayweather. And if Netflix can provide no lagginess, no buffering throughout the whole event, Netflix is going to be very respectable.
And Canelo, he's not treating this like just another defense. This is his era, his weight, his house. After resecuring the IBF belt by beating William Skull in Saudi Arabia, Canelo now holds all 4 major belts at 168. Crawford was ringside that night, watching closely, and the tension between the two was evident even before the post-fight face-off. Canelo wasted no time reminding fans and Crawford of what he believes is the pecking order. "He's a great fighter," Canelo said, "but he's not Canelo. On September 13th in Las Vegas, I remind the world who runs this era." There's confidence in his voice, but also a warning. Crawford isn't coming up to 168 to be competitive. He's coming to take over, and Canelo knows it.
Do I have to ask about Terence Crawford? Do you think it'll add to your legacy, the fight with Crawford?
Yeah, a lot. He's a really good fighter. 2 times undisputed champion. He accomplished so much. So can add a lot to my career.
This fight is also being used as the global debut for Zuffa Boxing, Dana White's long-rumored entrance into the sweet science. White's involvement, along with the Saudi promotional machine and Netflix's global streaming power, makes this one of the most layered, commercially aggressive boxing events in recent memory. It's not just about who wins, it's about who commands the future of the sport. The size difference can't be ignored.
In the last decade? Yeah, ever. This is one of the biggest fights ever. And obviously I'm honored to be promoting, but yes, when they say we're promoting it, I'm doing the promotion, we're doing the production, the event ops, PR, I mean everything to do with the fight, just like a UFC fight, while at the same time promoting UFC Noche. So it'll all be the same weekend. It's a badass weekend of fights.
Crawford is moving up 14 pounds from his last fight, a win over Israel Madrimov. For a fighter who spent years perfecting his game at 147, that's no small leap. And while he did fight at 154 recently, 168 is Canelo's backyard, a weight class where he's dismantled bigger men like Caleb Plant and Billy Joe Saunders. The challenge Crawford faces is multidimensional. He has to match the physicality without losing precision, withstand the body shots without becoming static, and execute his game plan without letting Canelo set the pace.
A good little man has never beaten a good big man in the history of the game, unless you go back to certain situations with Pacquiao beat me, but I was a dead man walking anyway. But a good little man never beats a good big man, so it's a tough test for Crawford, but I'm not counting him out. The bottom line, and this is the truth again, it's a money grab. That's it. Yeah.
Crawford's strength lies in his adaptability. He doesn't come in with a single blueprint. He studies, absorbs, adapts. "We're going to see come fight time what my advantage is," he said. That's not a vague answer. It's a window into how he fights. He never shows his full hand until the moment is right. That's how he broke down Errol Spence. That's how he neutralized Sean Porter. And that's the approach he's likely bringing into the Canelo fight. Not trying to win all 12 rounds, but waiting for the moment where he sees what no one else sees and acts.
It could give Canelo a real problem now. I think early on you could see, he's a mover and he's obviously a very good boxer. I think to start with, when he's throwing his jab, it was falling short. They weren't emphatic punches, and I think as it slowed down, it was then connecting. He was catching him. It makes that Crawford fight, I think, more an intriguing fight. I always say a good big and beat a good little one, and he's got to give a lot of weight away, Crawford, but it could give Canelo a real problem now because Canelo was getting caught.
Watching that, do you think Crawford might be perhaps licking his...
As Manny Pacquiao re-enters the boxing spotlight to prepare for his own return, the Hall of Famer didn't waste time weighing in on the year's most debated matchup. Pac delivered a calm but pointed message for Terence Crawford. Speed, style, and strength. That's what it'll take to beat Canelo Alvarez. Coming from a man who once danced through divisions, flattening champions with quick feet and quicker hands, the advice doesn't sound generic, it sounds lived. Pacquiao knew what it was like to give up size and mass, but make it irrelevant through angles and aggression.
Any advice for Crawford moving up in weight? You did it so many times and you were successful. What do you tell Crawford? Any advice?
My advice to him is just focus on speed and the speed and style.
But there's something intriguing about his confidence in Crawford's speed being the decisive factor. It's not the most obvious prediction in a matchup like this. Canelo has been in the ring with elite movers before. Floyd Mayweather outboxed him clean, and Dimitri Bivol peppered him with disciplined footwork. But he's also adjusted since then, learned how to cut off the ring, and made fighters like Caleb Plant and Billy Joe Saunders wilt under sustained pressure. Pacquiao isn't blind to that. But in Crawford, he sees something more elusive. A man who not only hits with unexpected sharpness, but does so while switching stances, hiding punches, and reading opponents like a chessboard mid-fight. Speed and strength are not mutually exclusive in Crawford's case. That's why Pacquiao leans into that trio. Speed first, then style, then strength. As if to say, disrupt first, confuse second, punish third.
It's a stylistic matchup, and Williams Cole don't fight nothing like Terence Crawford. So we're not going to see the same type of fight come September. I think we're going to see a great fight, real good fight.
You and Terence have always had like a good relationship, but if he makes Canelo come off the titles, is he on your radar then in the division?
Yeah, all the top super middleweights are on my radar. I want to face the best, and a lot of fighters say that, but I don't feel like a lot of them have shown and proved that. I feel like I've shown and proved that. So.
Then there's Sean Porter, who knows Crawford's punches not by watching them, but by wearing them. Porter gave Crawford one of his toughest recent fights, and in the process, received something most of Crawford's opponents don't get: enough ring time to actually analyze him in real time before succumbing. Porter, who had never been stopped before Crawford halted him, is a good gauge of how Crawford's power functions. It's not instant, it accumulates. It's not about one big shot, but about placement and timing and the ability to hit from unpredictable angles. Crawford didn't stop Porter because he was overwhelmingly strong. He stopped him because he consistently landed clean shots that eventually took their toll. And that's where Porter's insight becomes controversial. He argues that while Crawford's one-punch power won't translate as heavily at 168, his combinations will still find Canelo. And once they do, it becomes a matter of when, not if, they start to slow the Mexican down.
There's no Triple G on Bud's resume. There's no Trout on Bud's resume. There's no Daniel Jacobs on Bud's resume. Canelo is the one that's fought the elite level opposition. It's Canelo that fought Laura. There is no Laura on Bud's resume. There is no Laura on Bud's resume. Bud has never faced a multiple division champ. Bud has never faced a multiple division champ.
Yeah, but Bud is an elite boxer.
It's that steady damage Porter warns about, not the knockout power fans are obsessing over. According to him, Crawford's effectiveness doesn't need to come from trying to match Canelo's brute strength. It needs to come from attrition, from making the Mexican fight every second of every round, responding not to big shots, but to a symphony of combinations that test his rhythm, his gas tank, and his patience. When Porter says he'd bet his last dollar on Crawford, it's not a sentimental pick. It's a tactical one. He's seen what happens when you give Crawford enough time to find your timing. He doesn't miss twice.
I'm going to pick Crawford to win this fight. Crawford is very talented, great footwork, great combinations, and a very strong fighter. You know, facing him off, he's actually the taller man. So I'm leaning towards Crawford now. I switched my opinion. I think Canelo looked too slow, too flat-footed. One punch at a time. I don't think that's going to be enough for him to beat Crawford. Crawford's too fast, too strong. Just too.
But not everyone agrees with the way this fight is being framed. Critics argue that Pacquiao's and Porter's advice, while valuable, downplay the harsh reality of weight. Crawford is jumping 2 divisions. That's 21 pounds above the weight at which he destroyed Errol Spence Jr. No matter how smart or skilled he is, mass and muscle can become decisive once fatigue sets in. Just ask Amir Khan, who shared the ring with both men and suffered violent knockouts at their hands. He was knocked unconscious by Canelo's right hand in the 6th round of their 2016 middleweight title bout. 3 years later, it was Crawford who dismantled him, again in the 6th, but in a much more technical, surgical fashion.
They talk all the crazy stuff about me going up and having a tough time, but he went up in weight and lost. That's the difference. I went up weight and won. He went up and lost. So let's not do that, Canelo.
Khan is one of the few fighters with the credibility to speak on both men's power, and he doesn't hesitate to say it. Canelo hits harder. There's no debate about that. But Khan also issues a more nuanced warning. Just because Crawford isn't as powerful doesn't mean he isn't dangerous. In fact, Crawford's danger lies in his disguise. His punches don't look loaded until they land. He doesn't wind up, he doesn't telegraph, but he stings with shots that come from odd angles and land in places that fighters aren't ready for. Khan says it plainly. Crawford can hurt Canelo, not knock him out with a single shot, but push him back, rattle his rhythm, and force him into retreat.
There's rumors that Terence Crawford and Canelo.
I don't think that should happen. Look, I like Crawford, and I think Canelo is a beast that way. Honestly, I would advise Crawford not to do that.
It's a bold claim, especially considering Canelo's iron chin and composure, but it's not baseless. Bivol, a natural light heavyweight, didn't knock Canelo down once in their bout, yet he clearly won. Not by brute force, but by outpacing him, out-jabbing him, and forcing him into uncomfortable positions. Crawford, if he maintains speed and mobility at 168, could replicate that blueprint with more variety. What Bivol did with straight punches and disciplined footwork, Crawford could potentially do with switch hitting, lateral movement, and flurries.
I'm going with Terence Crawford. Big weight jump, a dangerous fight, but somebody's got to prove to me that they can break Terence Crawford's will and that he can't figure it out against you. You know, it ain't no disrespect toward Canelo, but I've said this the last couple of years. I'm not betting against Terence Crawford against nobody right now. You got to show me that you can beat him.
Still, there's an underlying risk that few want to address directly. Crawford's gas tank at this weight is untested. He's never carried 168 pounds in a live fight. While Pacquiao insists speed and style are Crawford's key weapons, maintaining both over 12 rounds requires energy conservation and physical efficiency. It's unclear how Crawford's lungs will respond when they're forced to carry an extra 20 pounds against a fighter who will likely target the body from round 1. If Canelo does what he's done to nearly every mobile opponent, break them down with body shots and reduce their movement by round 6, then Pacquiao's advice may become irrelevant by round 8.
And the biggest question to me, how will the 12-pound difference be for Terence Crawford? It's going to be his first fight at 168. For Canelo, this is the weight class that he always fights at, no problem. But I'm really curious on how Terence Crawford is going to be able to adjust to this, and if it's going to be advantage or a disadvantage for Terence Crawford.
And what of Crawford's combinations? As Porter pointed out, they're among his best tools. But Canelo, for all his flaws, is not easily flustered by speed alone. He's been in with Erislandy Lara, Austin Trout, and Shane Mosley, fighters who relied on output and timing to get ahead. Most of them failed to keep it up long enough. If Crawford's volume drops midway through the fight, those sharp combinations become counters waiting to happen. And Crawford's tendency to switch stances, while usually a strength, could open him up if he misjudges Canelo's timing during transitions.
I feel I got the speed over Canelo. I got the reach over him. He might got the size, the power. I got the better skills, boxing skills.
Would it be more of a cat and mouse? The reality is Canelo does put people out. From Kirkland to Amir Khan to just...
Don't do
obviously,
I'm just saying, man.
No, but he's not too.
Then again, Crawford isn't just any slickster, he's a fighter who likes to gamble, and wins most of those gambles. He invites pressure, then pivots out. He lets opponents walk into traps, and unlike many of Canelo's past opponents, Crawford doesn't fight scared. He doesn't throw and run. He throws, plants, and reloads. If he can keep Canelo from planting his feet long enough to generate power, there's a very real chance this fight plays out closer to the Bivol blueprint than the Golovkin Wars. But will this be the case when Canelo hits him? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more updates.